Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now, I often advocate on my channel for the value of reading as much as possible to develop yourselves, to improve yourselves. And for me it's really important because I'm 54 years of age and I've reached a stage in life because I'm semi-retired from employment. I don't work full-time. I find that reading has become my main form of self-development on a daily basis. It's something I can do every day quite easily, pick up a book and gain from it. And you will find that reading as you get older becomes ever more important to you because it does such things as improve your knowledge outside of your normal parameters. It will increase your creativity because when you read things that you find interesting, it will launch you into learning more, discovering more, and as I say, tapping into your own creativity. It also helps reduce stress. You know, when you're reading, when you're in another world, thinking about the subject that you're sort of infusing your life with through the content of your book, you feel less pressure and less stress. And one of the clear functions of it is that it improves cognitive ability because the more you read, the better you get at it. But a lot of people say to me when I constantly bang on about the value of reading, well, I just don't have time to do it. How do I fit it into my life? Well, today I'm going to give you 5 tips on how you can read more books and reap the rewards that can be gained from reading in your life. Now, my first tip for you when it comes to reading more books is to set yourself realistic goals when it comes to reading in your daily life. I utterly accept that whatever phase of life you are at, you may be very busy. You may be struggling to find the time to read. Well, a really good way to get that time available to you to read is to set yourself a goal, because as human beings, when we set a goal, we like to achieve it. Now, you want to make that goal reasonable. You know, look at your lifestyle and see where you can eke out a bit of time. So if that means just reading for 20 minutes before you go to sleep every night as part of your sleeping regime, that's absolutely fine. That's a realistic goal. It's kind of what I do. Or you could set yourself a goal of reading 1 book a month. 12 books a year is quite a target to aim for, if that's something that you don't currently do. So I think that is utterly a reasonable and realistic target for you. It might be a book every 2 months, or it might be 2 books per month. It depends on your lifestyle and what's realistic for you. And the one thing you can do to help achieve that goal is write it down somewhere. Put it in your journal. I've got a journal here. I put my goals in there. And if I have a goal in my journal written down in tangible form, it makes me want to achieve that goal. So little things like that, just setting realistic goals really helps. Now, my second tip for you to help you read more books in your life is prioritize your reading time in just the same way that you would prioritize your work time for meetings, for actual sitting time at your desk doing work. Do the same for your reading time, because lots of folks say to me, the reason I don't read regularly is because I simply don't have the time. Well, if you plan your time and plan your reading time within that, in the same way you plan your meetings, the same way you plan going to the gym, plan your reading time. It just really helps to hit those targets as you go along. And the other thing to do, to carve out little bits of time in each day that might previously have been dead time to you. So say it's your journey to work in the car or on the bus. You can listen to an audiobook. You can read if you travel on the train or on a tram or however your commute journey takes you to work. When you're in work, if you have a lunch break and you don't use all of your lunch break eating, if you've got 10 minutes spare, pick up your book, do a little bit of reading. You'd be amazed if you did that every day, you would gain 50 minutes of reading time in an average working week. That's a fair bit of reading time. That's a really good chunk towards your goal. And another really big tip, which I would absolutely advise, carry your book around with you. Put it in your bag or however you convey your personal possessions. You might got a tote bag or a backpack, but if you carry your book, you will find it's there to hand when you need it and you find some dead time appearing to you. So you might go to the dentist. You might have half an hour wait before you go in. That's half an hour's reading time. And there are any number of other events like that in life where you're going to find a little bit of dead time which can become reading time. It's continuous professional development and it's worth just carrying that book. Now my third tip for you is to create a reading friendly environment where you are going to enjoy your book. And I would recommend that you designate a comfy and cozy space somewhere in your home that you can think of as your reading spot. Now that might be a comfortable armchair near the window, nice and light, somewhere lovely to read and comfortable. Or it could be a little corner of your bedroom where you know it's quite calm, there's not any noise, the kids are not going to come bursting in, you can read in pleasure. Or it could even be a nook within the garden. Like me, if you spend a great deal of time outdoors, maybe you like gardening, maybe you like going out for a walk, carry a book with you, and then when you find that park bench and the sounds of nature all around you, lovely and light, get your book out, do a little bit of reading. You'll be amazed how the environment really helps you read. And when you've created that conducive reading environment, it will enhance your enjoyment of the book and your reading pleasure. Now my next tip for you is to curate a reading list. A list of all the books that you would like to read. Maybe it's books you've always wanted to read, you know, some of the classics from the past. Or maybe it could be genres that you'd love to delve into. Science fiction, manga, whodunits, whatever it may be. If you have a direction that you're going in as a reader, you will find it more interesting and varied to explore different reading opportunities. Now for me, I do a couple of things. I've got a bit of an unofficial rule in my reading life in that I read one fiction book and then one non-fiction book. So I alternate fiction, non-fiction, fiction, non-fiction. That way I get a bit of entertainment and enrichment in with my education. And you know, when I'm reading, I don't even realize I'm learning, but particularly my personal enjoyment are biographies and autobiographies. Learning about the lives from people who've lived in the past and learning from their experiences, learning how to overcome problems and overcome challenges. And if I read a biography as my non-fiction, then I'll read, you know, some sort of fiction for a bit of entertainment, just a bit of fun. Another way which I enjoy creating reading lists is I do structured reading towards a specific theme. So at the moment I've got some books here on the table. I am reading in a structured way about the Battle of Arnhem in the Netherlands, and on the table I've got 4 books by 4 key British military players in that battle. I've got a general who was involved in the strategic planning. I have a general who's in charge of an army group actually on the ground. I've got a general who was a divisional commander, and then I've got a lieutenant colonel who was in charge of a battalion. So I've got from the strategic to the tactical, and my reading structure is all about learning as much as I can about that historical event. And when I've done reading these, and I am halfway through them, it's my intention to go and visit this actual location where the battle took place in Arnhem, in the Netherlands. And with my knowledge, I hope to really infuse myself with that historical period and that place. And in that way, having a goal at the end of your reading tunnel, it really helps to motivate you, keep you on track, and enjoy the content that you're reading. Now my next tip would be to embrace audiobooks. I know there are a lot of reading purists out there who are going to say, well, an audiobook is not really reading, is it? It's just listening. Well, you're wrong. I personally believe that audiobooks are a great alternative to reading, particularly when it comes to autobiographies. Because when you have an audiobook, an autobiography, which is actually read to you by the author, it puts an entirely different perspective on the way that you understand that person's life story. I do it all the time. I listen to audiobooks, autobiographies of living people, and they have narrated the book. And I just find it so enveloping in the story to hear it being told by the actual person themselves. And again, audiobooks are a great way of getting some extra reading in when ordinarily it wouldn't be possible to pick up a book. So maybe you're driving in your car to work. Audiobook on, listen to it on the journey. You can get an hour half an hour per day. If you're doing exercise in the gym, right? If you don't want to listen to music when you're on the old exercise bike or the running machine, plug yourself in to the audiobook and you can learn when you're exercising. And if you're doing chores around the house, maybe you're ironing, doing gardening, you can be reading at the same time with an audiobook. So regardless of what people say, and I do agree, I prefer to read because it helps with the imagination, you know, actual reading the text. But an audiobook for me is the second best way of taking information in through a book, and don't overlook it. You know, there are many services out there which provide audiobooks these days. It can actually help you read without even putting any eye work in. Now, my final tip for you today is to celebrate your reading progress. It's quite a thing to read several books. It's not a common occurrence. And to celebrate it with your friends and family by giving them book recommendations, talking about the books you've read, introducing it into conversation. It's a great way to share the information that you've learned and to motivate you to learn and read more, particularly if you can give somebody a book recommendation. Or maybe, right, if you've got a family member who's also interested in reading, why don't you agree to read the same book at the same time, then meet up and have a debrief on how you both enjoyed that book, what lessons you learned from it, and you will find it can be a really good bonding experience and learning experience between two people. Now, to take that to the next step, and it's something I've just done actually, in my town there is a bookstore. It's a bookstore which has a national chain, but in my local town they have a cafe as part of the bookstore, and they've just recently launched a book club. And this month, I think they've launched 2 books, which we're going to read in the book club. I'm only going to read one. I'm going to read this one, The Cloisters by Katie Hayes. I only started reading it the other night. So the idea is there's a month between meetings. They tell us what book we're going to read for the next month. You read the book. Next month you go meet a group of like-minded people who've also read the book, and you can share your thoughts, views, opinions and observations on the content of that book. And it's a great way of, yes, structuring your reading, and yes, having an outcome at the end of the reading, because you can talk to other people about that subject, about that book, and again, motivates you, propels you to read more. And even if you can't be bothered reading, if you know you're going to go to that book club meeting and you want to talk about it with conviction, it gives you a good motivation to read the book. So there we go. Those are some of my thoughts anyway. I hope you might have gained something from it. I think reading remains still one of the best ways that an ordinary person in daily life can learn and invest in their self-development for virtually no cost. In fact, it can be for no cost at all if you borrow a book from your local library. But actually buying a book and reading it over a period of time, I do not think there's a better, more cost-effective way to improve yourself in the modern world. So, there we go. Tell me if you agree, or tell me if I'm way short of the mark. You can do so by dropping me a comment or even sending me an email. And if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, click the subscribe button. If you'd like to practically support the channel and help me buy more books, you can buy me a coffee, which is a one-off tip thing, or you can become a patron. My patrons get additional video content. I drop new videos for my patrons, unique for them each and every week. And you will find the links to all of that in the show notes below this video. So until the next time, take care, enjoy your reading, and I will see you again very soon.